Hello.
Hi. Oh, it sounds weird.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's like echoey.
All right, we're live, Rach.
Oh.
Yeah, people are listening. Ignore the cameras.
Okay. It's really fancy in here since the last time I've been up here.
Yeah. We got to say, because this is going to come out Thursday, so Happy New Year.
Happy New
We've
Year.
got to pretend. So it's New Year's Eve now as we're recording this. And I thought it would be a good idea to do a year in review. I did this last year, but it was just me. And what the important parts of the year and what we learnt from the year. Because I think that this year's been important for me. There's been a lot of firsts, but it's been pretty important for you too, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
And I think that what you play footsie with me, aren't
Sorry. My feet are cold.
Okay. So what's I think important about your journey is that you've gone from working in an office to doing what you really want to do, and I'm doing what I really want to do now. I've been doing it for a while, and I've progressed exactly. So we're at different stages. Would you say that's a fair what's the word?
Analysis.
Thank you.
To be technical about it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're doing what you love to do, and you're further ahead on the journey, and I'm trying to catch up slowly.
Yeah.
Even though it feels like massive leaps, you know.
For you?
Yeah, because if I take the first 6 months of the year, it was a case of working and then doing a course part-time, and you know, nothing really had changed. And then the second half of the year, everything just swapped and everything just accelerated massively. So I'm catching up quick, you know.
Yeah. So give us a little, because let's start from the beginning, which is the best place to start, I suppose.
Nothing really exciting happened to us until we went to Bali, which was April. So
was that April?
Yeah, so the first couple of months. What else happened at the start of the year?
April, we went to Bali in April.
Yeah, we went at the start of April.
Yeah, we did actually a podcast about it. I think it was episode 53 about our experience in Bali. And but before, in case you didn't listen to that episode,
listen to it.
Listen to it. But the biggest takeaway from that is don't book flights through Skyscanner.
Yeah, that's what we learned. Big time.
I've kind of wiped that out of my mind now, but I think we lost maybe $3,000, about that, $2,500.
We got some back. I think we lost about $2,000.
Yeah. So the story is, if you couldn't be bothered to listen to that episode,
quick recap.
A quick recap. I mean, loads of great things happened in Bali, and we had a great time. And it was our first holiday together, and I think that's a big deal because Rach, we moved in together November 2017. No, 2018. Sorry, and then 4 months later. And now, bear in mind, we only met a month before, about a month before that. No, we met in July. First date was July. First date was July 13th, and then you moved in November, which is pretty quick. And then we went on holiday, our first holiday together in April the following year. So that was this year.
We kind of did it backwards.
Yeah, and then so loads of great stuff happened in Bali, and it was a fun time. But I think it's only fair to give advice to people and where things they need to look out for. What happened? I've used Skyscanner loads when I booking flights England to Ireland, short flights. I know it's going through Ryanair and they get a bit of a commission Skyscanner doing. That's fair enough.
But it's handy when you're lazy.
It's handy when you're
lazy. Especially for this, because like you do it when you go to America or anywhere. That's a big holiday as well, because you have to do stopovers and you don't want to look at two different airlines and see if the flights match up. It's a lot more effort, really.
Yeah. It's a lot of effort. So especially going to Bali, there's connecting flights. So we thought, right, do it through Skyscanner. And long story short, booked through Skyscanner. got some sort of confirmation email. Like, right,
Yeah.
fine, we put that to the back of our mind. It was 6 months before we actually were due, or no, about 4 months before we were due to go.
Yeah.
Put it to the back of the mind, and then maybe a week before the flight, or maybe 2 days.
No, it wasn't. It was 2 days.
2 days.
Because I said 3 days before, I said, I haven't gotten any confirmation, check in online tomorrow that like Ryanair or Aer Lingus normally do. And I said, okay, well, maybe it's a 24-hour. It was actually the day before, I think, because I said, oh, maybe they only send it to you 24 hours before with this airline. And then it was the day before we were supposed to go, and I was in work, and I looked it up. Oh my God, it was horrible. I looked it up, realised that they'd cancelled their flights months beforehand. And I was like, my face drained. It was horrible. And when you're in the office and you're sitting there, and we had an open plan office, and I was right in the centre, and I just felt like everybody's eyes were on me as my face just like dropped. We're not going. But anyway, we had to rebook our flights, and we lost a good bit of money. So that was something we learned this year. Yeah,
and then I oh damn it, what was the name of the company the intermediary company? Do you remember? Shit, I can't remember the name, but we then called them. They have a help desk in Spain, I believe. And it was a disaster. I mean, I was calling back and forth, and people were passing me on, couldn't speak English. And then stupidly, I checked Trustpilot afterwards. Trustpilot is a great website. You put in any company and it'll tell you how trustworthy are they. And they had like 0.5 star out of 5. These guys, the reviews were, these guys scammed me. These guys, I lost $3,000 going here, there. And we became one of those people. Ended up calling up Emirates directly. And they said, oh yeah, your flight was booked through this company, and then the next day they cancelled it and they didn't notify you. And essentially we think we got some money back, but we actually got all our money back from them. But the problem was we had to then book our flight for the next day, so we had to book the day before, which then cost us like $2,500 or something. But anyway, moral of the story is, look at the flights, look at the itinerary, look at the airlines, and then go to the airline website and book it. But apart from,
so that's lesson 1.
Apart from that, but part of Bali was great. And then when we came back from Bali, I suppose the most significant thing to me that happened at the start of the year was I got asked to lead the teacher training for Yoga Hub, and that was a huge deal for me because, well, one, whenever you're appointed something like that, it kind of validates you. It makes you feel a bit like you're doing something that's right. And I realised that I like progression. I want progression. I want to. I love teaching public classes. In fact, we've had the last week off, not working for Christmas. And I thought, oh, great, week off from teaching. And it was great for the first 1 or 2 days. But after that, I'm happy to be back teaching and to be in front of people and to be with people. Yeah. I was getting cabin fever being at home so much. And
it's not nice to have either extreme, because you were working so hard before that. Like, you didn't have a day off for like a month or something. Yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah, even though that's my choice, but still you're doing it all the time. And then when you realise you've got a bit of a break, you think, whoa, sweet, that's nice. Because it's kind of nice to break the cycle sometimes. But sometimes when you break the cycle, you realise you actually missed the cycle. That's what I found. I missed it. And I didn't say this to you, but yesterday when I went back to teach the public classes, on my way to driving to Yoga Hub, I thought to myself, this isn't for me anymore.
Teaching?
Yeah, I think that sometimes I'm like, I get so full of self-doubt that I completely talk myself out of it. And I was saying to myself, I don't think this is for me. I'm not. I don't know.
Because you were nervous, or because you didn't want to?
Because a little bit of nervous. Because when you do something every day and then you take a break for a week, that feels like a long time. And you think, what have I forgotten things, or what have I don't, and what really do I have to add? But as I've talked about before, this is a cycle. And if I teach a workshop, for example, the night before the workshop, I would think, no, I've got nothing to add here, no value to give. And then after the workshop, I think I'm on top of the world. Yeah. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do loads more of these.
I think with something like that as well, because you're, leading, you're supposed to be the one in charge of the group, the one giving advice, the one helping others, you know. It's going to cause doubt all the time, really.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it regularly, I suppose you feel a little bit more confident in it because you're used to it and stuff like this. But yeah.
Exactly. That's if you were doing a workshop every weekend or every month, it would be it becomes a habit. Yeah, easier. But I think that is the.
But I also think that breaking the cycle kind of gets you down a little bit. You know, at the start you're like, woohoo, I've got time.
Are you talking
off.
about you personally?
No, I'm just talking in general. I think a lot of people feel like that. You know, the first little while you're like, great, I've got some time off, I've been working so hard, now I get to go out for drinks or go have lunch with this person or go have dinner, and then after a while it's a bit, what day is it? Do I have a reason to get out of bed today because there's nothing on, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like everybody gets into a depression or anything like that, but I mean over time, the less you have to do, like what is your motivation to go start your day if you don't have anything to do, you know? And I think maybe, you know, people that are unemployed or, you know, stuff like this, that over time it gets you down a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. And also another thing is you think to yourself, all right, Christmas time, I'm really looking forward to spending time with my family. Ram Dass said, who recently passed away a week ago, I believe, maybe the week before that, he said, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And it's the way that you see your parents, your mum and dad, your sister, brothers, whatever, and you want to give them. It's so nice to see them, but then you realise, okay, that's when the yoga comes in.
Because it's a bit overwhelming. You know?
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
out of your routine. You're not used to seeing people all the time. Because it is nice to see people. You're used to like doing your own thing every day and then maybe meeting up with people once a week or something or whatever amount of time. And then suddenly, boom, at Christmas, there's 2 weeks of everybody's off. You're seeing somebody nearly every day. You're also drinking a lot more. You're eating badly. It's just, yeah.
And also as well, like as you said, you don't know what day it is. You don't have a routine, but you don't. What I found is I've become so identified to my job, my occupation, that it's become part of me. You know, it's who I am now.
Yeah.
And when I'm with my mum and dad family, I'm Kev again. I'm the little boy. I'm I'm the son who you know, who gets treated like that, which I love, but I'm not like, you know.
You're not leading the room.
No, I'm not leading the room, exactly. I'm not leading the room. And this is funny because like when Yoga Hub said to me, we'd like you to lead the teacher training, I thought, lead? You know, I'm a leader. I never felt like a leader in my life of anything really. When I worked in companies before, I would be the one trying to like doss off or like, you know, cut corners, and because I wasn't really into it, I didn't really know what a leader was. And what I've discovered, I mean, the teacher training started in September this year.
But actually, you're kind of a social leader. Because you wanted to doss off and bring people with you.
Leading them astray.
Yeah, leading them astray. Same with school. Leading them astray.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, and what I realised when I started doing the teacher training was that the first weekend, as you know, I was a bag of nerves. And I thought, okay, when I walk in there, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put my bag here. I'm going to say this. I'm going to put people sitting like this, and I'm going to be really in control of the situation. Yeah. And what I realised was trying to keep up that pretense of I know what's going on all the time. Yeah. I know what's happening next, what we're supposed to do afterwards. Trying to keep that up was exhausting.
Yeah. You were a crazy control freak beforehand, because I think it's just nervousness, because you're like, if I'm fully in control of every single thing, then I'll know exactly what every nuance will be, what every possible outcome could be. I'll know how to handle any sort of situation. So then you just over plan, and you're obviously very nervous because you were thinking about what way you're going to stand, what way you'll turn your head when someone asks you a question, you know, practicing your speech and like talking to yourself, the responses that people were going to give and your answers. So it was kind of funny. But then it wasn't so bad, you know, when you started. You loved it.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad, because what I realised was that an effective leader is someone who lets other people be heard, and is willing to accept when they're wrong or hear different viewpoints, and understand that you are. They say leaders eat last. That's what they say in the military, in like the Marines will say, officers eat last. You know, when you're leading people, you let other people be heard, and you put them in front of you. In fact, I heard someone talk about the that shooting that was happening in Kenya. This sounds a bit dramatic, but like the shooting that happened in shopping mall.
I'm interested to see the link.
Yeah, the shopping mall in Kenya. This is a tenuous link, but and there was it was quite unique, because it was the first time that someone had actually taken photographs while the event was happening, as opposed to the aftermath. There's a photographer there, and one of the famous scenes that was posted by the New York Times was a mother jumping on her child, like not even thinking about it, just jumping on a child, and that was her instinct. So it was kind of inspiring but haunting at the same time that she would do that without even thinking about it. And I know this is a weird link to say, but it's and obviously you're not, when you're leading a teacher training, you're not sacrificing your life for someone, or are you? You know, not all heroes wear capes. But a lesser version of that is to understand that you're not always in control, you're not always right, and that you can
go with your instincts.
Go your instincts. And if in doubt, just jump on someone. So that was a poor link, but what I realized in the teacher training is that I can learn so much from other people, and I think when people see that you're open to learning more, and you're like, I never thought of that, I'm going to explore that a little bit more, they feel it's more of an interactive experience, and they can learn more, as opposed to the days, for me, the days of everyone sits down for 5-6 hours, sit on the floor, listen to me, and I'm going to read from the manual. I think that is not good enough. I think that is a lazy way of teaching. I think that the world is changing, our minds are changing. 100 years ago, schools were invented to train people to work in factories, to make them obedient, so they can sit in a line on a production line, specialize in one thing and just do that. But nowadays, we're used to interacting online or things that move a lot faster pace. So when I find that if you're going to have someone in a room for 6 hours, every half an hour, at least every hour, they're standing up, you're interacting, you're trying to, you're gamifying the learning experience if needs be, because that is the best way to help people to learn. But it requires way more planning. It's easy to just say, this is the curriculum, I'm going to read out the curriculum and you make notes. That's easy. I knew I could have done that, and it would have made my life a lot easier. But I don't want it to be easy. I want to actually create value, you know? Yeah. And I didn't realize how much preparation it would take. But I wanted that, you know? I wanted to be, to put my own stamp on it, as it were. You know, but yeah, that's plus
people. That's how people grow. You give them the space, to think for themselves. You know, if you leave things blank, they'll paint on top of it. You know, I don't know why I was going with that. But it's the same with in anything. It's the same with in my field.
Mm-hmm.
You just give people the space to kind of grow, reflect on themselves. Like, if there's just nothing there, they can bring their own thing. They can think their own thoughts. They can, if you just throw out an idea and let them foster it or whatever, instead of just dictating, because otherwise you're just increasing the memory, really.
Weren't you saying, and you can tell me to shut up if you want, if this is too personal, but weren't you saying about
say.
That when you were doing your course, there was 2 styles of teaching that went on. One style was in terms of how the ideas were presented to you.
Yeah, so I think there was just a mix of personal stories, as well as, you know, divvying out information, I suppose. But I think it kind of went with like what the teacher was interested in. So when I was doing, say, reflexology, it was like the actual reflexology was so colourful, and the treatments, learning the techniques, and the history and the meaning and all the different meridians, it was all it was really colourful and easy to like get involved. But then when we were learning the actual physical anatomy, it was obviously not the teacher's favourite point of, so it was a bit reading from the manual. It was a bit boring.
2 really good points there, Rach. The first one is people will feel if you're not into something. And that's why, say, with the curriculum for teacher training, I'll teach, make sure everything's covered, but give my opinion. This is what I think, and it's open for debate. Because that way people see that you are more enthusiastic about it, you know, as opposed to just saying what is supposed to be said. The other second point is personal stories. I think that is huge. I realised that you can plan so much, but often the juicy stuff, the most engaging stuff is when you just think of it on the whim. And you're telling a story of something that happened to you in the studio, or something that happened to you on a workshop or retreat. And I noticed people leaning in when I started like just going off the cuff, because they realised it wasn't rehearsed.
Yeah.
And people like to hear stories because
they can relate to it then.
Exactly.
They're like, oh yeah, I feel that way. I feel stupid and silly and crappy sometimes, or I embarrass myself that way as well, or you know, I learned that too, or I can get on board with that, you know. It's how that's how we've always connected with each other, you know. We would have been around the campfires years ago, and then when we're kids, it's like the first way that we learn how to interact with others is through storytelling. You know, our parents tell us nursery rhymes or stories, or we watch Disney movies, you know, there's stories as well, or fairy tales and stuff, you know. So, and then we continue that as we go on. So it's kind of in us. That's how we communicate.
I think it gets lost though, because sometimes we feel like we just need to, like, so for example, covering a curriculum, you feel you need to stick with the exact structure, but it's important to add colour, so people. Because there's only, as I said, there's only so long people can sit for and just listen to.
But that is something that I learned this year, is the power of listening. Because so many people, if you even just think about yourself, how much you want to talk, how much you want. No, just in general. If you just think about yourself and you're like, I have this idea, I want to talk about it, I want to talk about it and discuss this with a load of people. And sometimes it might be like really boring. Or if there's nobody around, you talk about it to yourself. You always want to talk, to express a thought. And then, like, a lot of the time, you don't really have the opportunity to talk about it, you know? Like, we're on our phones a lot these days, or we're in work and you're not really supposed to talk, or whatever it is. Everything is kind of, like, short communication, because it's like really texty, or you know, you just like send gifs and stuff instead of like even replying. When I'm texting my mom, she's like, "Are you coming over for dinner?" She just like sends like a cartoon dog or something. Like, what does that mean? But I think listening is really important, you know. Since I started working with people for treatments, I'm like, sometimes people come in and all they do is talk for the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And at the start I thought that this was mental, because they're wasting their massage time or they're wasting their reflexology time. But really that's what they need, is just a place to say, this is what's going on with me, and have somebody who's like, okay, you have this hour or 2 hours or whatever it is, this window to do whatever you like. I'm here to listen. I'm here for whatever you need, you know. So that's kind of something that I didn't realise what, like, you know, it's one of those things that you think, okay, that's obviously important. And it's not something huge that I learnt this year, but it is something that you kind of take for granted and don't realise that you need as much as you do.
Well, your job is a therapist, and therefore it's not just the physical labour of massaging someone, but actually taking the soft skills of taking time to listen to them. And sometimes when you have new knowledge, like you've done a lot of studying the last year, and I'm always trying to upskill and learn new things, I want to tell people that. So if they come to me with a problem, like say their wrist hurts, I want to tell instead of listen. And that is, and I like you said, I consciously do that now. But it is interesting the way someone has an hour for you. You know, they paid for an hour and then they spend 15 minutes of it talking.
Yeah. I know, I get that now, but at the start it was very, I was like, what? Why would you? That's not what this space is for. And I guess as well, realizing that the space you had for people doesn't have to be a fixed. I don't know, fixed thing, fixed.
Doesn't have to be fixed.
It doesn't have to be fixed. Sorry. So like, when you go for lunch, it doesn't have to be just eating. When you're talking to this person, it doesn't have to be, like, it's not as regimented as you think, I suppose.
Yeah. Well,
because sometimes you kind of fall into that bracket of, oh, I'm with Kev, so we're going to be all lovey-dovey and chat or whatever, talk about anything. Or I'm with, you know, my boss, so I have to be a little bit more, hold it back. We only talk about work stuff. Or I'm with a client, so we're only going to talk about this, you know, or maybe we won't talk, or maybe, you know, as if a certain space or a certain person, you can only act a certain way.
Yeah, that's so
whereas
funny.
you can use like transferable skills. Because like, you know, sometimes you think in your head that a situation or a person requires a certain thing, and then they might need something else, you know. Your boss is still a human. They still laugh at jokes. Your client is still a human. They're not there to just lay on the table while you work on their back muscles. They might need a joke as well. Or whatever it is, you know.
It's almost having an ability to improvise a little bit and be flexible to understand in that moment and get a sense of what does this person need from you, as opposed to this is my pre-programmed dialogue and responses to this person in this bracket,
frame.
In this frame,
exactly.
And that is I think that's what separates someone who is a good massage therapist from a great one, or any occupation where you're a therapist, you know.
But I think it transfers into almost everything, because you know, at the moment, well, I don't know if it's just at the moment, whatever, but there's this whole thing about the workplace, say, and you know, it's not a safe place for emotion, right? So it's not really a place where you would cry or laugh or whatever. You have to act a certain way and you have to be a certain way. And I think it's because our mental framework is, okay, in this situation, I'm this person. In that situation, I'm this person. And in this situation, I talk like this. So I think we need to get a little bit more fluid between everything, so that we can be like, okay, I'm still me. I'm authentic, you know.
I think that's a great point. I think that's why the transition between doing a 9 to 5 to working for yourself in a therapeutic field is quite difficult, because when I worked in a 9 to 5 or a corporate environment, I was terrible at the corporate talk and the Monday morning, hello, Jeff, how was your weekend? Rain again? Or, you know, how are the kids? And what about, I don't know, politicians? Or this? I'm rubbish at that. You know, my small talk is like, are you scared of dying alone? Like in
But
the
it
lift.
doesn't mean that you're bad at the job. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you're bad at the 9 to 5.
I was bad at that too.
I actually, okay. But you know, just different personalities, you know,
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like to navigate the business world, I think sometimes that is the etiquette of the business world, to be like, right, I say this at the right time. And I think that can...
Etiquette, that's the word I was looking for.
The etiquette,
Sorry.
yeah. And whereas the etiquette in a yogic environment is one of being open-minded and being maybe a bit unorthodox or in your thoughts.
But actually, weirdly enough, I think with the yoga world, or you know, holistic world, or you know, treatment, whatever, that kind of area, is actually... The idea is that they're really open-minded, or we're really open-minded, or everybody is, or whatever. But I don't think that we're actually that open-minded. I think that we're like completely the other way, you know, because it's like there's the 9 to 5 office-y type job where it's called kind of like strict and regimented, and people have certain opinions in a certain way. And then our yoga area is a bit like very left, I suppose, and unorthodox. But if you had...
Left as in left wing.
Yeah. But it's not actually as unusual. It's more unusual if somebody was right, but in the left. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if somebody had kind of regimented traits or mentality, ideas, but then they were in that yoga sphere, that would be a little bit more unusual. But I think we do need to have a bit more acceptance, because in the yoga circle there's a lot of a lot of talk of, okay, I'm going to be accepting, I'm going to be patient, I'm going to meditate. But then at the same time, if somebody has a different opinion to you, it's not really accepted, you know.
That's a great point. And like we're generalizing here for the sake of convenience, saying that people in the corporate world are
which is actually terrible.
Straight-laced. But I was in the corporate world for years and I wasn't straight-laced at all. And I know loads of people that weren't. And equally, we're giving the impression that people in the yoga world are all open-minded, very tolerant, very patient, and non-judgmental. But the reality is, people are complicated, and conversations are messy, and that the yoga world has become an industry, and that industry has people in it, for example, that their priority is to make money, which is fair enough. Other people, their priority is how virtuous they can be, how good can they seem.
But I think as well, it's not like people have bad intentions. I think it's actually just a little bit of, like, it's deceptive almost. It's stuff that you wouldn't really notice. It's stuff that you, if you were to look at it, you would see, well, that's clearly wrong, or this is clearly right. I don't know how to put this. I don't feel like that people are trying to be like, I'm not saying that people in the yoga world are actually all actually really close-minded or this or that. I just think that sometimes you feel like you're open-minded, but you actually can be dismissive of things without realising.
Yes,
I suppose that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think
I don't think there's any bad
no
intention or anything like that.
I think people, we as humans, have good intentions, and our instinct is to survive, and we know that to survive we need each other, but sometimes when we need each other, we form these little cultures, and within these little cultures we get very tribal and we disregard other cultures.
That's exactly it.
And that's it. And it's not because we have bad intentions, it's because we're trying to do the best for us and people around us, and sometimes we don't consider people with other opinions, and that's
or other tribes. I like this tribal thing. That's exactly it.
So that's so yeah. Again,
anyway.
no. It's true. This is good, because I think this is important, and I think this is why I would say this, but podcasting is so powerful, because every time I sit down in front of someone, I learn something about them I never knew. And when you're recording each other, in fact, as you talked about earlier, we have our phones now all the time. We're checking our phones constantly. But when we sit here for an hour and we just talk to each other, we explore ideas that we never would have before.
I know, even this now, like I'm with you all the time.
And we never talk about
and
this.
we never talk like this.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's not even like serious or anything. It's just, I think this room with these headphones, like, I don't know, it kind of gives the space of, oh, let's talk, you know, for an hour. Even though we do talk, it's just, this feels like, I don't know. It's bringing it out.
It kind of feels like for me, like I have more of a responsibility as well, because people are spending their time to listen to this, and therefore I should articulate my thoughts as best as I can and be as honest as I can. Whereas sometimes you'll say things to certain people because you think that's what they want to hear. Whereas this is a different format, different space. So I'm going to work through my year, and then you can chip in for you know, when you want. And
cheers.
No, come on now.
What else happened during the year?
So I got my little thing I posted up the other day, my top 9, and teaching workshops. So it was the first time I led a teacher training. Also the first time I went outside of Dublin to teach workshops. If you're listening to this and you like to do that, a closed mouth don't get fed. In other words, ask. If you want to teach a workshop in a studio that's outside your city that you want to be a guest teacher at, go to the studio. So for example, Greystones, I've taught now in Wicklow and in Sligo this year. Both occasions I went down to the studio beforehand, went to a class, met the owner, spoke to the owner and said to them, I'm a teacher up in Dublin, and this is my workshop offerings. Do you think you'd need someone like me or this or what I offer? And they thankfully said yes. But it wasn't a case of they asked me. What did really help was they listened to the podcast already, or they see me on Instagram already, so they're already familiar with me. I wasn't going in cold, as it were. And then when the time came to go and teach the workshops, again, obviously, the cycle happens. Yeah, I'm going to teach the workshop. Brilliant. This is fantastic. I'm the bee's knees. Oh, I never said that. I thought, right, this is great. I promote it on social media. I'm giving it the big one. Here you can book in. This many places left. Night before the workshop happens, shit, I'm going to cancel the workshop. I can't. I'm not ready for this. Whatever. Okay, that happens. I get there. And so many times I've been at workshops where Patrick Beach has been there, or Adam Husler, or some other teacher from a different studio, a different country, and I'm like, oh, they're here. Oh, look at them. Look at what are they wearing? What's their water bottle like? How do they carry themselves? How do they speak to the students in the room? Where do they put their mat? What music do they play? I'm observing everything about them. And then I walk in. I'm not comparing myself to those guys. I'm far from it. But now I'm in that position. I feel like I'm being watched, which is fair enough. And I'm like, I feel like such an imposter here. This doesn't feel like I better really deliver here. Do the workshop, everything. Once it starts, the nerves go away and everything is good.
So what did you learn?
What did I learn? I learned that, 1, if you want something, you have to ask. 2, everything is about perception. If you perceive yourself not to be that person, you won't become it. If you think you're good enough, you will, but understand there's going to be resistance. And it's about, can you get over that resistance? Or do you call the studio up and go, look, I'm not ready? You'll never feel ready. You'll never feel ready doesn't mean you're not ready.
I think that's true, because I kind of like, I guess for me, I like things to be exactly right before I do anything, you know. I don't like risking things at all, like not a little bit. I like to prepare until you can't prepare anymore, and then I'm like, oh, I feel like I've already done it myself, you know, before you step in to do it. But really, you're never going to be ready for anything, because you'll have never done it before.
Exactly.
So there's no way to be like, oh, I'm ready now, because no matter if you do it tomorrow or you do it in a year or in 10 years, it'll still be your first time to do it, you know? You're never ready for anything until you do it. It's actually what I said to myself when we moved in together.
Did you? The night before you were like, no, I don't want to do this.
I was like, no, because I was saying no for ages. I was like, even though we did move in really quickly, I was like, no, I'm definitely not ready for this. And then I was like, when will I ever feel ready? You know, I'm such a homebird. I actually couldn't stop crying and everything when I first moved in. I remember you were like, you don't have to live here.
Right.
Sorry.
No, I'm joking. No, it's good. It's fine.
But obviously I loved it. I just change and risks, and sometimes it's good. This year for me anyway was a year that I learned to just take risks, because it's either going to go one way or the other. They've all thankfully gone really well, but even if they go badly, you could just go back to where you were. You know, if it didn't work out, you can just say, okay, no, I'll go try again. But yeah. So that's a you're never going to feel ready.
No, you're never going to. And if you're not feeling nervous about doing something, maybe it doesn't matter enough to you, and that's when you need to readdress it. Same applies for doing live podcasts. So I did one with Dan Morgan. Shout out to Dan, love Dan. Did
love
one
Dan.
with Patrick Beach, and heard of him, and the Dan with Doug as well, Doug Robson. Shout out to Doug and Pat.
We love him as well.
Patrick, yeah, we love him too. And because there's so much going on. Like, right, we're doing this, the podcast already, you know, you're recording.
Which is actually a little bit intimidating, you know? And I live here. So I'm actually just...
You sleep downstairs.
I sleep downstairs. And I'm in this room all the time. We have a bath over there. But it's just like, there's all this technology and, you know, you have to put on headphones. And it's stuff that you're not familiar with it.
So there's all that, the technology. So there's the stuff of like, is it recording? What does that light mean? What does this mean? And you're constantly, plus
you don't know the other person that well.
Well, yeah. So you don't know the person. You're sitting down with them, and you're going to ask them questions that are quite personal in front of a bunch of people that have just arrived. Plus, everything you say is recorded forever, and there's a permanent record of it forever. You cannot take it back. So all of that is going on, and I was absolute bag of nerves for both of them. I mean, I was like trying to.
I didn't even know you were nervous.
That's what people say, like, I didn't even nervous. But I was sitting on my hands at the start because I didn't know what to do with them, and my hands were shaking so much. And then when I got into it a little bit, I was all right. But once again, after it, I was like, I'm going to do so many more of these. I'm going to do so many more, because this is what I really love about the podcasting thing, is that to do like events where you get to meet people, and it's great when people leave reviews or say nice things, and then I message them back, but it's kind of a bit feels a bit empty. You're like, thank you very much, but I don't get to see them. And then when they come to the event, it feels like that you're facilitating a little community, you know, and that's a big driver for me, because I spend so much time. I see you all the time, obviously, but I spend so much time alone. On my own, that I want to do whatever I can to bring more people together. Yeah. And that's why I really love retreats, workshops, and more immersive experiences where you're not just 1 hour of the day and then you don't see them again, but you're there for a whole day or weekend together.
Yeah, exactly. And you build relationships.
Yeah.
With people that you never would have really met before. And then they stay with you. Like the last retreat that you did with Elisa in Wicklow. Like, I still talk to some of the people on the retreat, and I never would have met them before. And now I'm going to your classes, or I'm in Yoga Hub or wherever, and I bump into them, and it's, oh, hi, how are you? Oh, like, constantly. You just, you get great friendships when things are immersive, you know? When you do, workshops where there's brunch beforehand or something. Or you go on the retreats and you spend 2 or 3 days with a load of people, and everybody feels like, at the start everybody's a bit like, I'm excited, but also where am I going to stay, and who are these people, and and then suddenly you're having dinner, as with a group of people that you don't know and you get to know, or you're out lying on the grass in the sun chatting to people about whatever book they're reading, or, you know, having a laugh while getting into the hot tub, and like, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
And also, as you mentioned there, you can go to yoga class, do your practice, go home, and you might say, "Hey, how's it going?" And that's nice, but to actually have a deeper level of connection where you've spent a whole weekend with that person a few months before that, and you can actually really chat to them, like, how's your dog, how's your husband, how's your wife, and it really, I don't think we understand or we appreciate how even if you go around feeling happy, life can be quite lonely, you know. And modern also life.
Yoga is fantastic, it's great, I love doing yoga, but it's really a personal journey. You know, when you practice yoga, when you go to a yoga class or you do it at home or whatever, it's all about how you're breathing, how matching your breathing to how you're moving. It's the same with treatments as well. It's all about you. How am I feeling right now? What do I like? Can I have patience here? You know, how am I feeling? What way is my ankle? What, you know, you're very much aware of yourself, and you go in to yourself, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, what is going on with me. And that's what the space is for, and that's great. And I think that's why, like, there's no talking when you go to a yoga class, which is great, I think, because you're supposed to be going in, you know. But then if you go to something like a retreat, you're going in that space, but there's more. It's like that space is grown outwards. So you're going inwards during the classes, during the meditations, but also the space is there afterwards to connect with other people, you know, in a really like relaxing, comfortable, you've escaped everything. There's nothing around that has to be done, no stress. So it's more of a place to grow.
Yeah. And speaking of that, that was the next highlight for me this year, was doing that retreat. That was my first retreat with Elisa, who did a great job. Shout out to Elisa.
Just a shout out to everybody. Elisa is great.
Yeah, and what I realised in that retreat was, although I meticulously planned the itinerary and asked Elisa what her opinion was in it, she added stuff in, and you know, she added stuff in and whatever. When the actual retreat started, I realised that, again, I can't control everything. And I actually took a back seat. So it was the retreaters or the people, the guests were saying to me, Kev, we're doing this at 2:00. And I'd be like, oh yeah. And I'm like, I actually wrote the itinerary initially. But I kind of just thought, actually, it's better for me just to take a back seat and let people, and give people a bit of free time. Because, you know, this year, me and Rach are doing retreats together, and what I've realised is quite important is to not be too strict with the schedule, to not pack everything in, because we have enough of a schedule in our daily life that the idea behind a retreat is to get away and to say to people, you can come to this if you like, or maybe you want to have a bit of free time to yourself, and to give people that space. And I think the main thing with the retreat is just letting people have time together out of their normal routine. And to do things that they wouldn't normally do. They wouldn't think of booking for themselves. So if they go out for have a nice massage, they think afterwards, they'll probably think, I would never have done that myself. I would have thought, no, I'm going to do a bit of work, or I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
And to break that routine. The other thing, that other kind of what happened then to me in after the retreat in September was I started working at a Space Between. And
oh my God, it's so nice there.
It is.
That's like the nicest studio ever. They have like heated floors. Like, you're in your bare feet, obviously, for yoga, and you're walking around on heated floors. Oh my God. The walls move. Like, oh my God, it's just, it's such a nice studio.
It is.
The little cafe with, oh my God, that drink. Like chocolate elixir, mushroom thing. Yeah, it sounds disgusting, but it was amazing.
And again,
I really love that studio.
Great studio. It's custom built. They're doing loads of stuff there. I mean, I've been to. Obviously, I'm a teacher there, but they do talks there, like union talks, which I've been to a few of them now. But how did that happen? I seen that there was a building site. I said, there's a building site going on Fenian Street. This is, 8 months ago. And I said, what are you guys building? Now, most people don't do that. They don't stop a bunch of builders and say, what are you building? We just walk past and just don't take any notice. We're building a yoga studio. Oh, hello. Hello. So, and then I've Googled the space between on Fenian Street. Nothing came up. The only thing that came up was a LinkedIn page, I think for the owner, one of the owners, Dave. Pretty sure that's what came up. So I messaged him on LinkedIn, and who the hell uses LinkedIn? Not in the yoga world anyway. Eventually he got back to me, and I just network until I got the phone number of the other manager, Youll. Went to meet them, and essentially that was it. I went to meet them, put my best foot forward, told them when I was available, what I wanted to do. And at this stage, I
didn't know they did this.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes you don't want to give the impression that you're going around begging constantly, negotiating for work, but it's been effective, and it's given me the best things that have come to me have come because I've asked.
Yeah.
And we like to think sometimes, I would like to think that people just offer me work, but life doesn't work like that generally, apart from the teacher training.
Yeah, but even at that, you were working there for a good while.
There for a good while.
They're seeing that you're doing well with your classes and stuff,
Yeah.
They know you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the space between, and since I've started working there, I've realised how there's such a need in Dublin now for people to come together, not just to do yoga as in the physical postures, but to actually go to look at some art or go to a talk about philosophy, something that's not involving the pub. Even though the pub is great, there is a hunger, a need for people to be together. Like when we did that sound bath the other night, we went to the sound bath, it was great, but essentially we're all lying down on the floor and someone's hitting a bong. If you think of just the basic, without going into the details and the skill of it. So if you look at that from the outside, it's like, what are all these people doing? Lying on the floor, having a bowl being hit next to them. I think we want an excuse to not have to be on our phone, to not be looking at Netflix.
But I think it comes back to, you talking about the tribe thing. We're naturally, we all want to join create a culture around, create a group with similar culture, a tribe. And then in order for that to grow, you need to do things in common with your tribe, You need to go to sound baths or go to have coffee at Happy Food and Yoga Hub or something, where there's people are doing something similar. Go on, take pictures, go on Instagram, follow similar people, find out what they're doing for beach cold water jump-ins or whatever they're called.
Yes.
Joining groups that are similar to yours, and creating that sense of, I have my own tribe. People say that a good bit now.
Tribe.
Oh my God, my tribe.
Yeah, they do, but it's an innate human need, and as you said, birds of a feather flock together, and people, we want to feel like we have things in common, and that we have that's a culture. That is a culture that you're creating. So after that, was Alfie. Take a moment.
He's asleep downstairs, and that's amazing.
Yeah, he's asleep downstairs.
Because he's not really a nutcase.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're not aware, I
don't know how you couldn't not be, because all we do is post pictures of Alfie. We've turned into that couple.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So, and I even become that guy who created an Instagram account for Alfie, which is a bit shameful. But what would you say, Rach, has
the thing
learned about having Alfie?
Oh, so much. He's the biggest thing.
By the way, he's a dog, just in case people don't know. We have a dog called Alfie, a puppy who's 4 months old now. We got him about 6 weeks ago.
We were talking about him for ages, whether we should get a dog, him and Han. It was kind of on the back of our minds. And then we did get a puppy, and I thought, like, I never had a dog before.
Did we get a puppy, or did I get a puppy for you? I don't know.
You got a puppy. I never had a puppy before, a dog, and I just thought, like, when you get a dog, they're just gonna cuddle with you on the couch. You go out for a walk once a day with them. Oh, great! I'll be getting outside more. You know, that's like the extent of what I thought about. Might have to go out a couple of times a day to let them go to the toilet. But then, oh my God, the first, like, when you like, he's great now, but when we first got him, he was a nightmare. He was so difficult.
Once we weren't sleeping,
it was so difficult. Because he was whining all through the night. We didn't know what to do. Like, when you don't know, you've never had a dog before, you don't know what the best route is. So obviously we just Googled, what do you do with a dog? Like, how often should you feed him? Where should he sleep? How should you mind him? All this kind of stuff. And all the advice we got was, make sure he's not in your room, not in your bed. All this stuff, keep him in the other room. But then we put him in the other room, and he was just whining and crying, and it broke your heart. And then so we got no sleep. His bladder was really bad. He needed to go to the toilet like every half an hour or something, every 20 minutes.
We don't have a garden, so we live in an apartment essentially. So we have to physically go downstairs to take him out to the green in front of the house.
Oh my God, it just felt like every 10 minutes we were just cleaning up.
Yeah.
Wee and poo and.
And he has got better, but if I just give the last 24 hours. Last night I went out to teach, came home, loads of poo in the front room. Okay, sorry, there can be a poo trigger warning, by the way, if you're offended by poo. Or poop, they say in America. And I'm like, right, I got home, I want to cook my dinner, but I've got to clean up all this poo. So I cleaned up loads of poo, cleaned up a massive wee, did that, started to cook my dinner. So as soon as I eat, I'm going to take him out for a walk. As I was cooking the dinner, I thought I better take him out quickly now. I took him out to go for a wee and a poo. He went for a wee. And then 5 minutes.
Very detailed.
So 5 minutes later, I brought him back in, and then as I was cooking dinner, he had another poo. So I had to clean that up again. And then this morning, I got woken up at 2:30 in the morning. I went to bed at like 11:30. I got woken up at 2:30 because he was scratched on the door. I woke up, he had a poo, had to clean that up, and then from 2:30 this morning until 7 a.m, I was on the couch with Alfie, basically looking after him because he couldn't settle down. So he has got better, but that is going to happen. And I think that what I've learned most from Alfie is not actually about having a dog, but it's more so about our relationship, and that once upon a time, we'd be messaging each other sweet nothings about I'll see you later, gorgeous, all this kind of stuff, and now, and we still have that side of us, but now it's more we have that, and we've developed a partnership, I would say. Yeah.
Now we message each other when he's gone to the toilet, so we know when to bring him out the next time because we're still training him.
Yeah, there's a whole system of like
different emojis.
Different emojis, basically. Yeah.
No, it has. It's kind of taught us a lot about, well, me anyway, about routine, and how sometimes you don't realise, but you're in a routine and you're comfortable, and then you get a puppy and suddenly the routine is gone. Your sleep pattern is like all over the place. You have to schedule things so that you're not leaving him alone for too long, making sure that he gets his walk even though you've already done a lot of exercise or you've been out for the day and you want to wind down. It's kind of, and you can't really schedule it in as much as not with a puppy anyway. Maybe when he's older it might be a bit easier, but at the moment you kind of have to go with the flow a lot. Like, you might want to do something, but he's wired, so it's probably not the best time to do yoga because he'll be scratching at the door. You know, you might have to bring him out for a run first and let him relax, or do this or that, or you just kind of, it used to be a case of, because there was just the two of us, you could kind of do whatever you wanted, especially because we work like part-time, like little hours, like teaching and doing treatments. Everything, it can be kind of moulded around whatever we want to do, essentially. And then when we got Alfie, it was, all right. He kind of dictates a lot of stuff now that we weren't used to. So it kind of, I didn't realise how stuck on my routine I was until we got Alfie. And then you just obsess. Oh, I didn't get enough sleep. Oh, I didn't go to sleep at this time and I woke up at this time. Oh, I didn't do my yoga this morning because Alfie needed to be brought on a walk and then I had to go to work, or this, things change.
That's how it works now, though, because we'll say...
It must be very difficult with a baby.
Yeah, whereas every morning,
It's a new puppy.
every morning me and Rach do yoga together, and we have a little room, we do yoga, and now Rach does her massage treatments in that room. And that was the dedicated room for that, but now I'll say, okay, I'm going to do some yoga, and Rach will take the dog out for a walk, and then she'll bring the Alfie back, and she'll do some yoga, and I'll take the dog for a walk. Or we'll basically teamwork like that. And to understand that your needs don't come first, you've got to look after this animal, and he's an animal. But it's good because you become a lot less selfish.
Yeah, that's true.
Basically, which is it.
And also, our relationship has grown a lot because we're kind of like we have Alfie, and it's a lot of responsibility, a lot more than I thought it would be, and he does really affect your relationship. And also, when we did get him at the start, we were getting like work done on the house at the same time, so there was like nails and bits of stuff everywhere, and then we'd have no water. It was
House
a bath.
flooded.
We were getting a bath. The house flooded. It was a nightmare. We had no washing machine or no water some days, or
no heating. No heating. This is in November.
Yeah,
End of November.
Yeah, and then with Alfie, like chewing on everything, biting everything. You couldn't leave anything down. You still can't, but it was worse then because we were getting house stuff done.
Yeah.
It was like make or break for us, I think, at that point. Like there was loads of stuff going on. Lots of stressful stuff. But we were fine. We grew. I think our relationship got a lot better since then. Yeah. And then also, like parallel to that, we decided to work together and do stuff together. So our relationship has kind of taken that on as well. It's not just before this kind of patch. It was all, we didn't work together. We lived together, and it was just the two of us. So when we were together, we were like watching documentaries or something, or we were going out for dinner, or we were just having a laugh together, and everything was just real kind of romantic-y, I suppose, and fun. And now we've still got the fun stuff, but we're now gonna work together, plan things together, look after Alfie together. We've kind of taken on a bit of more of a serious element, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. But that's I think that's important for growth. I mean, when I was single, I was very selfish, and I would say, no, I want my 8 hours sleep, and I have to be in bed at this time, get up at that time, do this, my routine in the morning, etc. I had all of that, but I was lonely. And now I have loads of love in my life, but the sacrifice is I can't have things my own way. But but it's better because it's more fulfilling, because you have more love, which is like, what's more important in life than that?
Yeah.
So the next,
because if everything was regimented, we'd just be robots, wouldn't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't do well.
No, it's no way to live. So the next, coming towards the end of the year for me, then the next kind of big highlight was starting to film these podcasts. And as you said, it's a lot going on.
The people can't see the room too well. It's got like this sort of DJ box equipment on the table. That's what it reminds me of. Yeah. I feel it's like what you'd see in a nightclub.
Yeah,
there's so much tech going on.
Yeah, it's because I realised I'm going all in with this, and because I love podcasts and I consume them all the time, and they've really helped me in my life, and I just love I love the whole process. I love everything from like sitting with the person to creating the artwork to sharing it and then getting the feedback, and I just love it. And then now the live events, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. So I made a massive investment. I mean, I've got 3 cameras, they're $1,000 each. This machine is the guts of $1,000. It's like $4,000. So, but as I said, like, you do something because you love it. I mean, I love doing this.
That's what you learned.
Yeah.
Do something because you love it.
Do something because you love it. I don't need to justify it too much. I mean, when you're spending that much money at the start, you're kind of like, do I really, it's going to be a waste of time. Do people really care? But ultimately, I think...
Do people really care?
Yeah. Ultimately, like, I think if you really love something, eventually you'll find your tribe, as it were. And you don't need a million people to like you. But what you do need is... And it's okay for some people to not like you, but if you have enough people to care enough, then that's all you need, really. Kevin Kelly calls it, as I think, I didn't share that article with you, but I will, 1,000 true fans, and it's become his. And I use the word fans loosely, but that's the word he used. But basically, 1,000 people that like what you do, that are interested in what you do, that you give value to, and therefore those people will maybe come to your retreats, maybe come to your workshops, come to your events. And to understand that you don't need to have 100,000 Instagram followers. You just need enough to care for what you do. So, yeah, the videoing has been a game changer for me, and I really love, because I like to see the people. When I listen to a podcast, I like to watch little clips and see, what does the person look like, how do they interact, and all that. So, and I've thankfully I've had some brilliant guests on so far. Mark and Jenny. Also,
it's actually a little bit unfair because you just did Who's the Best Guest of 2019, and I wasn't in it because well, I'm in it now. And
you're going to be 2020.
I think you should people should secretly vote for me, even though it's actually
one is too late, and 2, this is going to be out. This is going to be out in 2020.
Oh,
so technically,
so vote for me next year, people.
But yeah, exactly. And I've been lucky enough to have really great guests, and it always amazes me when I ask again. People come on this podcast. I ask them. I say, "Hello, my name's Kevin. I have this podcast. I like XYZ. What you do? Would you like to come on?" And that's how it comes about. Any person, I've had a couple of people actually asked to come on, and they've ended up being brilliant as well. But 95% of people I've asked. So yeah, more video. I'm going to be videoing the live events as well. The next one is going to be Valentine's Day, which is the Jenny Keane special. We're doing yoga, but it's going to be videoed as well. So we'll see how that goes. But by the way, because this is going to be out early Jan, this Valentine's Day event is not like a networking, or what would you call it, a matchmaking event. It's we're going to do some like fun little games, but it's not what do you call it? A singles night. It's not a singles night, basically. So most people in Dublin are single anyway. So
are they?
I would say so.
Where'd you get that from?
I just made that up. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of single people anyway. So
in the world,
come along if you're single, if you're in a couple, or if you're in a group. That's what I would say.
In a group, eh?
In a group, easy now, Tiger. And now, last thing that happened at the end of this year, Christmas time, was we planned a retreat together. Yes.
We did.
Yeah. So
it's actually funny, you're talking about when you do the workshops and you're like, woohoo, I got this workshop, and then the night before you're like, oh my god, what? And every single thing that you talk about is just like, you're going up the roller coaster, where you're like, oh my god, why did I do this? And then you get to the top and you're like, ah, and then you come down and you're like, woo, I can't wait to go on this roller coaster a million times or whatever.
That's a good analogy.
It's kind of like that for me, for most things as well this year. Like I said, the first 6 months I was working, I was comfortable, I was studying part-time, different things, and kind of not like fully invested in what I wanted to do, just like doing bits and pieces here and there. And then the second half of the year, I changed and I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go fully in and do this, work as a therapist, which has been fantastic, but there's been just non-stop oh, I'm afraid to go for this interview. I'm afraid of my first pregnancy massage. I'm afraid of the first this, the first that. And now it's like getting even more because our first retreat, we're going to do workshops, all these things. It's just, it's very exciting, but very scary as well at the same time.
What have you learnt then, would you say?
What have I learnt? Is that it gets easier as you go. So the nerves, like that's kind of like at the very start when you're talking about the class, and when you take a break from it, when you go back, you're feeling like, oh God, what do I have to offer? I'm an imposter. Even though you've been doing it for years, teaching yoga. It's the same feeling of if you just do it more and more often, you'll kind of get used to the feeling. You get used to asking for things, you get used to your firsts, because if you're constantly growing and going through your firsts again and again and again, it'll be kind of routine to have a first every time, you know.
But what's interesting, I think, with your experience, Rach, is that when we first started going out before Christmas, I took a picture of you, and for a while it was your Instagram profile picture. It's one where you have really long hair and you're kind of turned away from the camera. And I remember then you were like very camera shy. You know, you didn't like your picture being taken because you were actually turning away as I was taking it. It wasn't set up like that. And now you have a blog that you do every week.
Oh, yeah.
You have pictures that you post up of yourself quite regularly. And you're fully out there in that respect. And now you're sitting here doing a podcast.
I know.
And that's in less than a year. That's in 6 months, really.
Yeah, I don't like taking photographs. I don't like sharing things. I think it's because really I'm just very shy as a person. The blogs, so I would have journaled since I was a kid. You know, when you're small, well, you don't know because you're a man. Well, maybe you do know.
I was small once.
No, I mean about diaries and stuff, you know.
Why wouldn't a man have a diary?
I'm just saying, did you have a diary?
No.
Well, there you go. It's just, obviously boys can have journals, but...
I had a football sticker book.
Doesn't count.
Not saying.
But, you know, when you're small, when you're a little girl, or a child, whatever, be politically correct.
Go on.
You get like Barbie journals and diaries, and you're writing down your memories and your best friends and what you did that day, and I've like kept that up for years. And now it's kind of a trend now to journal. It's like one of the self-care tips is to try journaling, or if you're anxious or anything, just try journaling. And I've always done that. I've always journaled. Because I like to know what's going on in my head. It helps. And it also shows me what I'm thinking, what has happened to me today. It's good for reflection. It's good for loads of things. But the blogs are kind of like that. Just a shared version, you know, me showing people what my thoughts are. And I never would have done that before because I'm private. It kind of goes back to the risk-taking thing. I like to only do things when I feel fully confident that they're going to work out. I like to only tell people my goals when I've done them, you know. I like to share my accomplishments, not my hopes, because I have this fear, I suppose, of failing. I think maybe a lot of people have it as well. And then I didn't like taking pictures because I don't really like things to be set in stone either. I don't like to be like, this is me here at this moment. This is what I am. This is what I represent. That's what I felt like if I started a blog, it would be forever. You know, you're talking about this podcast. It's never going to be deleted. And it was the same with the blog. For years, I wanted to start a blog. And I thought, I've loads of thoughts. I'm always writing stuff. I'm okay at writing. I'd love to do a blog. I'd love to feel like I've accomplished something, you know, concrete with what I do normally, like a hobby that I have. But at the same time, I thought it's going to be too set in stone. My ideas are going to be set in stone, and I won't have the possibility to change later on, because that will be my idea then. I think it's a bit of a problem with perfectionism, because I want things to always be right, to be static, to be, you know, this is what I represent. And if in a couple of years I change my mind, I can't go back. And I also don't like when things aren't perfectly finished. I guess there's kind of a nervousness of expressing myself, and my thoughts being challenged, or pictures of myself and people thinking like, oh, because when I only joined Instagram recently, and I always thought that's really vain to take pictures. It's like really bizarre. I'm not very, you know, I'm gonna wear makeup and short skirts, and that kind of reminds me of that. I kind of equated the two. I thought this Instagram is for flashy people who want to be like, look what I'm eating, look what I'm doing, kind of show offy people. Look what I'm wearing, look who I'm playing with, or whatever. And I guess built it up in my head, but then I joined, and then I started the blog, and I did these things, and I realised that it wasn't as big as I thought, you know. Things aren't as important as you think they are, you know. So when you build things up in your head and you think, well, I'm not going to be the best blogger ever, or I'm not going to look that great on Instagram, or what if this isn't perfect, or that's not right, or what if I change my mind? And then you do it and you realise, like, so what if I change my mind? That's the whole idea, is that we're not a portrait, you know. We're ever growing, we're ever changing. And I guess that is actually a really big lesson for me this year, is that we aren't perfect, and we shouldn't be, and that we're always going to grow. Whereas before I thought, I'm going to share things when they're perfect, when I've finished, when I've done. Like, I didn't tell people that I was going to go, I didn't tell anybody that I was doing massage until I'd done it. I didn't even tell my mom that I was moving in with you until like a couple of days before. You know, I don't like to say, this is what I like, this is what I want, until it's set in stone in case I flop. Or I don't want to share a blog idea in case someone says, no, that's not what I feel, that's not right. Yep. And I didn't want to go back and go, oh, actually, I don't really agree with that anymore. But then that's human nature, isn't it? To just, to grow, to change, to evolve. And I kind of, now I look forward to it. I like the idea of continuing Instagram, and in a couple of years looking back and being like, oh, I had this style back then, I had that idea back then on this blog, but now I find this is more helpful. All you can do is share what you know to be true at the time. Hopefully someone resonates with it, somebody connects with it. And that's, like, you do it yourself. Like, I would read a lot of blogs, or flick on Instagram to try and connect with people, you know, to see what are people doing. Yeah, I you know, when people put an opinion up or share a meme, or if people write a blog on a topic, that's how you learn. You connect to that and you say, yeah. And it's the same with you. Like, you're always listening to podcasts, but I'm sure at the start when you were beginning your podcast, you were thinking, you know, what do I have to offer here? This is kind of scary because these conversations are unedited, and I can't change. What if I say something and then later on I think, you know? Well, do you have an element to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 points there. One is
I talked for a long time there.
Well, this is. I was actually, funny you say that, because I was listening to this person that does analysis of the Joe Rogan podcast, which I'm a big fan of him. He's my main inspiration. And one of the things they noted was that one of his guests was telling a story, and the story lasted for 15 minutes, and Joe didn't interrupt. And that is the huge difference. Whereas now we get so used to, like, what do you think in these, like, these chat shows like Graham Norton, everyone's interrupting everyone, and you know, we want this kind of like little snippets of like little jokes and or things you can put up on like a 10-second GIF, whatever. But to actually let someone talk is really important. Anyway, but so.
Yeah. And actually, I am not used to it. So that's why there's so many M's, and because I'm used to somebody interrupting me. And I think that comes with having a big family. I think a lot of people in Ireland like have that. I was talking to someone about this recently, that in my family, like I've got 3 siblings and my parents, and we were in a little house and we were so close. My cousins would come over all the time. There's so many different family events. You're always around like a bunch of people, like stuffed into one kitchen, and there's like 30 people there. The kids are running around, somebody's talking about something, everybody's like jumping in over everybody else. And then you grow up with that as your baseline. Even in school, like kids interrupt each other, they half listen. And then when you get older, suddenly people are so civilised. Well, I found people are just a lot more attentive and they listen a lot more. And suddenly I'm
it's
like...
hard to adjust.
Oh my God, I don't even know how to have a conversation with someone because I'm not used to having like a long form amount of dialogue.
But I think that interrupting can sometimes be good. I mean, interrupt if it's natural to interrupt. If you want a better word is interject. If you have a point you want to add in, because that's how ideas get formed.
Plus, it's also how you know that you're making a decent point. You know, if somebody's like, yeah, exactly. Or I see what you're saying, and then you kind of get a little bit of like, oh, they get it. Yeah. I'm going to keep going.
When I did the introduction to this podcast, episode 0, I did it, and then I went back and edited out all the ums, and I had 2 versions of it.
Oh, did you?
I was going to publish the version where I take out my every time I say or so was the word I used a lot. I go so, and then I preface my sentence. And what I decided to do is I said, no, I'm going to start as I mean to go on, and I'm not going to edit anything out. So these are. Now I will say, I have to be completely honest. I had one guest that was on once who wanted me to edit out stuff constantly, and I did out of respect for them. But now this is at the very, very start. Obviously I won't say it was, but now I say to the guest beforehand, this is not an interview, this is not scripted, I have ideas I want to share, thrash out with you, and this is completely unedited. So if you say something, it's not going to be taken out. Now if it was a case of they said, I really not happy with that, we could do the podcast again. Right. But what I want to move away from is to keep it as natural and open as possible. So 2 things there, Rach, as you were saying. First is perfection is the killer of productivity. Forget about being perfect. Is it good enough? Is it going to add some value? It's not going to maybe knock people's socks off, but you don't have to hit it out the park all the time. The second point is...
say that all the time.
Yeah. The second point is... What's the second point?
I don't know.
So the first one was to
that perfectionism.
Perfectionism, and the second point was, what's the second point you made? What were you talking about just a second ago?
I was saying that I didn't want to share because I was private.
You're private.
I was afraid of failure. Does it do with that?
Yeah, I actually
afraid of being vulnerable. You know, it's kind of scary to go from. I suppose like people kind of ease themselves in.
Yeah.
But I was very much like, that is not my world. And I think a bit of me actually was a bit, what do you call it? Something signaling.
Virtue signaling?
Yeah, I think I was a bit like that. I was a bit like, oh, look at those people over there. Taking pictures, they're vain, they're this, they're that. And then I realised that people were just living and sharing and trying to be creative or have a laugh or whatever.
You can make a big deal out of things in your head. I mean, put it this way: if you're listening to Rach and you're thinking, I'm in a situation like her, I'd like to do a blog, but I'm too shy, or I don't want to take photographs of myself, all of that stuff. Rachel's first client, her first private client that came to the house, she asked her or I think you may have asked her, where did you hear about me? She Googled massage Glasnevin or massage Dublin. Rachael came up because Rachel's been looking at SEO on Google and making, by doing blogs, your SEO, which is your search, how high you get ranked on Google, goes up when you do a lot of content. So one, she found her easy enough because Rachel's producing content. And then the second thing she does, as soon as she found her, was she checked her Instagram. Instagram was active, nice pictures, looked relevant, tastefully done. That was it. That was enough for the client. And this is the thing. You can be great at doing whatever you're doing, and you may have the best intentions. You want to do it, but you have to, one, create content. Content is king in order to be found. The most common way for people to find people now is either through Google or sometimes on YouTube. You know, they find out massage things, and the two, they're owned by the same company. They're both owned by Google. And the second thing is, if you want to find out about, so once you find them, if you want to find out about them, Facebook's okay, but really, it's Google or Instagram or Facebook. And that is the reason why I think if you don't put stuff on Instagram, it doesn't have to be perfect, then you're really you're doing yourself a disservice.
Plus also, like, not to sound too cheesy, but but we're all pretty amazing, you know. It's actually,
how dare you.
No,
Get
shut
out.
up. We're all amazing, really. Like, it's actually a bit of a miracle that we are alive, and we all have stuff to offer. Like, we really do. We all have stuff to help others, to share knowledge, our own experiences, because nobody's experienced what you've experienced, really. And you can be selfish and keep it to yourself, or you can share it and be vulnerable, be like, here, this is what I've experienced, this is what I've learned, this is some of me. Like, you know, tear it to pieces if you want, or take some of the gems out of it, you know, give me what you've learned, and then we'll all grow, you know. Because otherwise, you're just keeping it to yourself. You're not growing. You're not being vulnerable. You're not... Because the thing about vulnerability is, it's all just really in your mind, you know, making things bigger than what they seem, being afraid to show who you are. It's all just in your mind. People aren't going to, you know, like... It's all basically, it always turns out okay.
It's all going to be okay.
It's all going to be okay.
Everyone, all right? 2020, and it's going to be okay.
That's just what I've learned.
Yeah.
That's how you grow. You just put yourself out there, and then you learn from the experiences. If you just stay safe all the time, you're not going to grow anywhere. You're going to stay in the job that you don't really like. You're going to stay in the relationship you don't really like. You know, everything that you're not going to show anybody who you are. You're not going to learn what you like, what you need, you know.
Yeah.
Unless you do something scary. And
that was great, Rach. Any final thoughts? Because we've left Alfie an hour and a half on his own downstairs. He's been sleeping, but any final thoughts?
No. Happy New Year.
You know what, Rach? Happy New Year to you too. And I'm looking forward to 2020, all right?
Okay.
But I want something to look forward to.
What do you mean?
Like a retreat or something. Where
Oh my God.
Where can I go? Sorry.
Are you doing an ad?
No, I'm doing an ad. No, we're not doing an ad. But if you would like to go on retreat, then myself and Rach are doing one. Rach is bred now. And we're doing one in Ardnahu, which is in...
I thought you were going to say Ardnawhere.
No, I've done that joke already. Which is in Leitrim. And we're going to be offering massage, which Rachel will be doing.
Rachel will be
holistic treatments. Because they have their own treatment room there. And it's really nice. They have some special beds, which sound fancy. And I'll obviously be doing the massage. Oh, no, not the massage. Sorry. I will not be massaging you. Don't worry. So don't let that put you off. I will not be massaging you. I'll be teaching yoga. And we're going to be doing hikes. We're going to be... they have a couple of chefs down there to do nice food.
They've got this, like, really cool... Like, I don't know what you would call it. It's a room made out of wood, a shed type thing. A fancy look. Like,
give it a fancy name than a shed, please.
I don't know what the word is. But inside they have like a wood burning fire.
Oh, yeah.
It's really cozy for like hot chocolate or tea or whatever during the night. Looks really nice. That's my favourite part.
Yeah, it does look nice.
What would you call that room?
They call it the indoor fire pit. I don't know what you call it.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah, but they have infrared saunas there, outdoor hot tubs as well, like not really nice hot tubs.
The grounds are fantastic. The gardens look unbelievable. Yeah. And the yoga room is all glass around that you're looking out onto the beautiful garden.
Yeah, so if you would like to go to that, we're doing an early bird offer until January 31st, which is $399, and then you can get treatments on top of that. And that's happening. We're going there April 13th to the 15th. So Friday and Saturday night. Come
The
back
3rd
Sunday.
to the 5th.
3rd to the 5th. That's correct.
So
Yeah.
don't book off the 13th to the 15th.
Yeah, forget that. 3rd to the 5th. Thank you, Rach. Rach, that's it. Hour and a half.
I'm tired now. So much talking.
Yeah. All right.
Great.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, people.